Imagine, just for a second, this invisible web of connections all around us every day. You know, the smart thermostat at home, learning your routine, the digital price tags changing in the supermarket, maybe sophisticated cameras watching the office building. It's the Internet of Things, IoT. And it's everywhere. But have you ever really stopped to think about how big it is? Or maybe more importantly, what weaknesses might be hiding inside? Today, we're doing a deep dive into keeping these super connected places secure. We're mainly looking at insights from Securing the Hyper-Connected Battlefield, a CISO's guide. It's going to help us understand a pretty big shift in how we need to think about IoT security. So our mission today, it's simple, really. We want to go beyond just talking about data breaches. We're going to explore how these digital problems can now cause real, actual physical trouble in the world. We'll give you the shortcut to understanding what's critical here, navigating this new landscape. Got some surprising facts, some really practical things you can take away. And, you know, for a lot of you, this stuff applies directly to the smart office spaces you might be working in. Okay, So let's start unpacking this big shift. For ages, cybersecurity was mostly about data, right? We were worried about losing money or maybe the company looking bad. But this explosion of connected things has totally changed the playing field. We're now deep into the era of cyber physical risk.
Exactly. And what's really mind-blowing here is how a digital hack can now directly threaten, people's safety or critical infrastructure, global supply chains, even public areas. Think about Stuxnet. Okay, it was incredibly complex, but it didn't just steal information. It physically broke centrifuges in Iran by messing with their control systems. Or, more recently, that 2023 attack on United Natural Foods. They supply places like Whole Foods. The result, empty shelves in grocery stores. The goal wasn't just grabbing data, it was operational disruption. Shutting down a key part of the food supply. Real physical impact. That's the takeaway. It's not just lost files anymore. It's empty shelves, disrupted lives. That's a cyber-physical risk people maybe don't always connect.
That is a powerful point. So if the stakes are that high, how are these digital threats actually getting into a physical world? It feels like IoT just makes all the old attack methods much, much worse.
You're absolutely right. We're seeing a massive increase in things like credential-based attacks, even shockingly simple ones, like in 2024, Roku, the streaming company. Over 500,000 accounts compromised just through credential stuffing, basically trying stolen passwords. And then there was that almost unbelievable incident in 2025. Researchers got into an AI chatbot guarding info for 64 million McDonald's job applicants. The password was 123456.
Wait, seriously, 123456 for 64 million people's info. That's wow. But what's really scary is how that kind of basic failure scales up into something huge and disruptive, like botnets and DDoS attacks. Distributed denial of service. Remember Mirai back in 2016? That was huge. Over 100,000 hack cameras and DVRs knocking out internet services across North America, Europe, and it hasn't stopped. We saw the Matrix botnet in November 2024, Raptor Train in September 2024, compromising hundreds of thousands of devices, home routers, cameras.
And the thing is, even if you reboot one device, with so many vulnerable ones out there, it just gets reinfected almost immediately. The botnets stay strong. And if we zoom out a bit, this points to another massive problem. Supply chain and third-party risk. Your security is now completely tangled up with every single vendor you connect with. Look at the Moveit breach in 2023. One flaw in one file transfer tool hit over 2,600 companies, 77 million people worldwide, just cascading failure from one weak link.
Wow.
But maybe the biggest, most systemic example was the Change Healthcare ransomware attack in February 2024. They handle so much critical stuff, claims, payments for healthcare. The attack basically paralyzed hospitals across the U.S. Patient care was disrupted, billions in payments just stopped. And ultimately, data for maybe 190 million people was exposed. It just shows how incredibly fragile our critical systems are when they're all connected.
So, okay, these cyber physical threats are everywhere, but the impact hits different industries in different ways, right? Let's maybe dive into a few specific areas. How about retail and grocery first? You walk in, you see smart shelves, digital price tags, updating instantly, maybe beacons, sending ads to your phone, even sensors in the refrigerators. It's all about making things run smoother, improving the experience. But it opens up new doors for attackers.
Oh, absolutely. Point-of-sale systems, the POS terminals, they're a constant target. Remember Forever 21 back in 2018? Attackers had malware on their payment systems for months. And thinking about the supply chain again, that United Natural Foods example leading to empty shelves, that's a direct physical hit from a digital attack. The stats are pretty worrying. One report said 72% of retailers got hit by an IoT attack last year.
72%.
Yeah, and the amount of data they could steal is huge. Giant Tiger lost 2.8 million custom records. JD Sports lost 10 million.
Okay, now let's shift to healthcare. The Internet of Medical Things, or IoMT. This is where it gets really serious because it's not just about privacy anymore. It's literally about patient safety. We're talking pacemakers connected online, infusion pumps controlled remotely, even smart fridges storing critical vaccines.
And the numbers, they don't look good. Over half, 53% of connected medical devices have known critical vulnerabilities. Yet only about 15% of healthcare organizations actually have a specific security plan just for IoMT.
Only 15%.
Yeah. And it's a uniquely tough environment. You've got incredible device diversity, so many different devices from different makers, hard to standardize security. Many devices just don't have the power, the resource constraints to run things like antivirus software. Then there are regulatory hurdles. Getting patches approved by agencies like the FDA can take ages, sometimes years, even for critical fixes. And maybe most importantly, clinical imperatives. You often just can't take a life-sustaining device offline to patch it. So security leaders are stuck making this really difficult choice between immediate patient care and essential security updates. It's a tough balancing act.
That's a really critical point. Let's do a quick deep dive case study on that. Securing wireless infusion pumps. You mentioned Baxter's Sigma Spectrum pumps. Analysis found hard-coded passwords, data sent in plain text, and the really wild part, Wi-Fi passwords stored in the detachable battery. So how could someone actually use a discarded battery to get into a hospital's network? That seems kind of crazy.
It does sound crazy, but it's a real risk. Imagine someone buys an old decommissioned battery online, maybe on eBay. They could physically connect it to a pump in the hospital, let the pump transfer the network credentials to the battery, and then just walk away with the hospital's Wi-Fi details. If they exploit that, they could potentially mess with treatments, steal patient data, or change device settings, maybe causing direct harm.
Wow.
So agencies like CISA and NIST recommend a layered defense. Things like network segmentation, putting the pumps on their own isolated network section, a VLAN, using strong wireless security like WPA2, EAP, TLS, which is much more robust authentication, constantly monitoring traffic for anything weird, and, of course, good old physical security to stop tampering in the first place.
Okay, one more sector. Large venues and sporting events. A modern stadium, it's like a mini smart city, right? You've got IT systems, but also OT operational technology controlling physical things like gates or HVAC.
Yeah.
Digital tickets, massive Wi-Fi networks for all the fans, thousands of cameras.
Yeah. And the threats are varied. DDoS attacks trying to crash the ticketing site, ticket fraud, phishing scams aimed at fans or staff. But the crucial link is how physical safety depends on these digital systems. If someone hacks the access control, you could have dangerous overcrowding or unauthorized people getting in. That directly impacts safety.
Let's look at the SoFi Stadium security ecosystem as another case study. They seem pretty cutting edge. They use AI for weapons detection at the gates. Evolved technology, screens like 4,000 people an hour without them stopping.
The AI learns what's normal, keys, phones, and flies potential threats instantly. Their whole network infrastructure is built tough, using belting cabling for all the high bandwidth stuff, Wi-Fi 6, 5G, 4K video feeds. And here's a really interesting part. They use a digital twin from a company called Willow that's the first major U.S. stadium to do this. It's basically a live virtual copy of the entire stadium, fed data from thousands of sensors in real time.
A virtual copy.
Exactly. It lets them run simulations, test scenarios, find and fix potential problems in the virtual world before they can happen in the real stadium. And, the bigger point here, connecting all these examples, it's often the very technologies that bring the most business value, better customer experiences, better patient outcomes, amazing fan engagement that also create the biggest security headaches. So CISOs, security leaders, they can't just be tech people anymore. They have to be business strategists, thinking about security right from the start of any new project.
Okay, so it's abundantly clear that just reacting, building walls around the network perimeter, that's totally outdated now. We definitely need a new way, a new framework. And one core piece of that seems to be Device Lifecycle Management, or DLM. It's like security by design, right? Building security in from the very beginning, not trying to tack it on later. From when a device is first thought up, all the way until it's thrown out.
It's exactly right. DLM covers the whole journey. First stage, secure onboarding and provisioning. Every device needs a unique, verifiable Identity Think digital certificates. Provisioning should be automated to get rid of weak default settings. And, crucially, enforce least privilege. So, an HVAC sensor. It should only talk to the building management system, definitely not the finance database.
Makes sense.
Next, resilient operations and monitoring. You need to watch these devices constantly for odd behavior. Update firmware and software regularly. Something like 80% of attacks exploit known flaws that just weren't patched. And use things like machine learning for anomaly detection. Finally, safe decommissioning. You absolutely cannot just unplug a device and forget it. Data needs wiping securely, digital certificates need revoking, access rights removed, that Baxter pump battery. Perfect example of what happens when decommissioning goes wrong.
And the second big foundational idea is the zero trust mandate. The philosophy is pretty straightforward but powerful. Never trust, always verify. Assume threats are everywhere. Inside your network, outside, doesn't matter. Verify everything.
And here's where it connects back. How does DLM help make zero trust possible? Well, zero trust architecture, ZTA, it needs a reliable way to know who or what a device is, if it's healthy, what its security status is, a trusted source of truth. That's exactly what good device lifecycle management provides. DLM creates that verifiable digital identity for every single IoT gadget. That's the information Zero Trust absolutely needs to make access decisions. You simply can't verify something if you don't know what it is or manage it properly.
Okay, but applying Zero Trust to IoT, that sounds challenging. You mentioned some of the issues earlier, like resource constraints on small devices, devices that operate without users, userless, the sheer ecosystem diversity, all those old legacy systems.
Yeah, it definitely has challenges, no doubt. But you could build a practical Zero Trust approach for IoT. It relies on a few key pillars. Rigorous asset identification and management. You got to know what's on your network, period. Microsegmentation, breaking the network into tiny isolated zones, like little secure bubbles around critical devices to contain any breach. Strong authentication and authorization for every single device connection. Digital IDs for everything, basically, enforcing least privilege. And continuous monitoring and analysis, using tools like SIEM systems and increasingly AI and machine learning to constantly look for anything suspicious.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and look at the really cutting-edge stuff. The next wave of defenses, this is where it gets quite interesting. AI as a cyber sentinel, for instance, it feels like it's becoming essential, right? I mean, the number of IoT devices just exploding, projected over 27 billion by 2025. Humans just can't keep watch manually.
Absolutely indispensable. AI's main job here is really powerful anomaly detection. It doesn't just look for known bad stuff. It learns what normal looks like for every device, for the whole network. Then it flags tiny deviations, things that look out of place. That's how it can spot brand new zero-day attacks that nobody's seen before. And beyond just detecting things now, AI is also driving predictive threat intelligence, analyzing huge amounts of data to actually forecast where attacks might come from next so you can prepare defenses before they hit.
And then you mentioned digital twins, which you described as like a live, super detailed virtual copy of a physical system.
Exactly. And for security, they're potentially game-changing. They give you a totally safe sandbox for vulnerability testing and pen testing. You can attack the twin all day long without risking your real systems. You can test security updates and patches on the twin first, make sure they don't break anything before you roll them out live. And they make fantastic incident response training tools, like a super realistic flight simulator, but for cyber attacks. A cyber range, remember SoFi Stadium, using their digital twin to find problems before they happen. That's a perfect example of proactive management through simulation.
Okay, and looking even further out, post-quantum cryptography, or PQC, this tackles that long-term, maybe existential threat from quantum computers breaking all our current encryption, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's not just science fiction. The worry right now is the harvest now, decrypt later attack.
Yeah.
Enemies can grab encrypted data today, even if they can't read it, and just store it. Then, years down the line, when quantum computers are powerful enough, they decrypt it. So PQC becomes urgent now for any data that needs to stay secret for a long time. Medical records, government secrets, intellectual property. NIST, the standards body in the U.S., is leading the charge to standardize new quantum-resistant algorithms. And while these new methods can be intensive, research is already showing they can run even on small IoT devices like a Raspberry Pi. So a quantum-safe IoT future is actually feasible.
So if you put it all together, what does that look like? AI is detecting threats, digital twins let you simulate and plan, PQC protects the basic integrity. It sounds like a really smart, layered, resilient system.
Precisely. It's about synergy.
Okay, one last crucial piece, navigating the regulatory maze. Seems like there's a big shift happening globally, right? Moving the responsibility for security away from the user and onto the manufacturer. The whole buyer beware idea for smart devices is kind of ending.
Definitely ending. In the U.S., you've got the IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act from 2020. It basically makes NIST security standards mandatory for any IoT devices the federal government buys. That has a huge ripple effect. And for consumers, there's the FCC Cyber Trust Mark, a voluntary label based on NIST standards to help people choose more secure products.
Like an Energy Star rating, but for security?
Sort of, yeah. But Europe is going even further, being much more aggressive. ENISA, their cybersecurity agency, laid groundwork, but the big one is the EU Cyber Resilience Act, the CRA. It was approved in 2024. It sets mandatory cybersecurity requirements for almost all digital products sold in the EU. Manufacturers are legally on the hook. And the penalties are serious, up to $10 million or 4% of global revenue. Plus, there's an updated radio equipment directive, RID, coming in August 2025. It's a massive change. Security isn't optional anymore. It's the price of admission to the huge EU market.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, for the CISOs, the security leaders listening, the main takeaways seem clear. You have to adopt that cyber-physical risk mindset. Champion zero-trust principles. Absolutely mandate secure device lifecycle management. Invest smart in AI and automation. And yeah, start planning for that quantum future now, not later.
And maybe connecting it back for everyone listening. Think about your smart office. It's really a miniature version of everything we've talked about. It's retail, healthcare, large venues, access systems, wellness sensors, smart coffee makers, whatever. All these strategies, secure life cycles, zero trust, AI, digital twins, PQC, they all apply right there in your workplace.
So as you go through your day, maybe start noticing all those connections, your office, your home, the smart devices you interact with everywhere. And maybe ask yourself this question: what's the one unthinkable physical thing that could go wrong in your connected world just because of one digital weak spot? What do you need to start planning for? And for those of you specifically thinking about securing your smart office, you can definitely explore solutions and get more insights over at www.secureoutoffice.world. They're really focused on helping businesses build that kind of resilient, future-ready IoT security posture we've been discussing today.